Hare Krishna, everyone. Can you all hear me and see my screen?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, bro. Thank you so much. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naran Chaiva Naruttamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nastaprai Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhavati Naistiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, the third canto, titled The Status Quo, and the chapter is chapter 13, The Appearance of Lord Baraha. Etadvati Atmajairvira Karya hi Apachitriguru Saktya Pramatir Grihatya Sadaram Gatamashtrita Etavati Atmajairvira Karya hi Apachit Guru Shaktya Pramatvirgritya Sadaram Gatamachre. Word by word meaning Etavati, just exactly like this. Atmaja, by the offspring. Veera, O hero. Karya should be performed. He certainly. Apachit, worship. Guru, upon the superior. Shaktya, with full capacity. Apramati, by the same. Grihata, should be accepted. Saradaram, with great delight. Gatamashtrati, by those who are beyond the limit of envy. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O hero, your example is quite befitting a son in relationship with his father. This sort of adoration for the superior is required. One who is beyond the limit of envy and who is sane accepts the order of his father with great delight and executes it to his full capacity. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. When the four previous sons of Brahma, the sages Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanandana, and Sanat Kumara, refused to obey their father, Brahma was mortified, and his anger was manifested in the shape of Rudra. That incident was not forgotten by Brahma, and therefore the obedience of Manu Swayambhu was very encouraging. From the material point of view, the four sages' disobedience to the order of their father was certainly abominable. But because such disobedience was for a higher purpose, they are free from the reaction of disobedience. Those who disobey their fathers on material grounds, however, are surely subjected to disciplinary reaction for such disobedience. Manu's obedience to his father on material grounds are certainly free from envy, and in the material world, it is imperative for ordinary men to follow the example of Manu. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjanashalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namo Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaiham Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Uttapadakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamsha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Shahagana Lalita Sri Vishakha Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavane Sri Vrishavanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Manchakalpataru Vaishya Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Lachal Nivasa Nityaya Paramatmane Balabhadra Subhadrabhyam Jagannathaya Tanma. So thank you so much for joining this wonderful Sangha. And today, what a words and wherein Brahmaji. This is a discussion which is happening between Maitreya Muni and Vidur Maharaj, and 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 in that context, in a recursive way, they're discussing the discussion. Maitreya Muni and Vidurji, they're discussing what is transpired between Brahma and the first Manu, whose name is Swayambhu Manu. And here Brahmaji is mentioning to Swayambhu Manu with very profound references. He is referring to Swayambhu Manu as hero. He's saying, "Oh hero." He's referring to Swayambhu Manu as "Oh hero." And he's also referring to Swayambhu Manu as a person who is beyond the limit of envy. Gatamatra. That means he is referring to Swayambhu Manu as if he doesn't have envy for others. That's very profound. And he's also referring to Swayambhu Manu that he is not insane. He is a sane person, apramati. And we're going to discuss the qualities as to why Brahmaji is referring to Swayambhu Manu with such profound positive references. He's referring to someone who is his son, who has come from him as a hero, which he has not referred to his other sons like the Kumaras and Rishis. And what is so special about Swayambhu Manu that he refers to him with so much of uh, profound complimentation. And then he goes on to say that you are a person who doesn't have envy. Very profound again, because envy is the last thing, last anartha, which will get us out of the hell. But often we regret to realize that we all have envy in some form or shape, and soon we get rid of it. It's good for us. And Brahmaji here is referring to Swayambhu Manu as the person without envy, and he is referring to Swayambhu Manu is a person with a sane attitude. He's not an insane person. Very profound. And we're going to discuss something on those characteristics. So as Srila Prabhupada has mentioned here, that once Brahmaji gave birth to the four Kumaras, he had the intention of the four Kumaras procreating. But the four Kumaras didn't like that idea. They wanted to serve the god. They wanted to follow the footstep of being Jnani. And then that infuriated Brahmaji. And then Rudra came, and then Swayambhu Manu came. And here we are talking about the qualities of Swayambhu Manu. So in this reference, you see that Srila Prabhupada is explaining that the four Kumaras, they did a disobedience to the father. It's not good, but that was for a higher cause. And at the same time, Swayambhu Manu, the progeny of Brahmaji, is going to help in procreation. And there, Brahmaji is referring to him as hero. He didn't refer to hero to Sanat Kumara, Sanatan Kumara, Sanandan Kumara, and Sanak Kumara, the four Sanas or the four Kumaras. He didn't refer to hero to Rudra, Shiva in this case, but he's referring to Swayambhu Manu as hero and a person without envy and a person who is sane in thinking about the future. So in both the cases, one is disobedient and one is obedience to the father. But Srila Prabhupada goes on to say that both on the absolute term, both are right, because here the four Kumaras went on to do devotional service where they spread the glories of the Lord. And here Manu, Swayambhu Manu, accepted the direction of Brahmaji and they went on to procreate. So here there are some little things which really are standing out. So sometimes what you have a fatherly love where your father is giving you some instructions. Sometimes you don't think that by indulging in that, you are doing yourself anything which makes you proud or makes you famous. You really work in a very selfless manner. And that aspect of following the father's footsteps or directions is very profound in Krishna consciousness, in Vaishnava philosophy. For us, sometimes we are not supposed to be very possessive about our fame, our post, our position. We should be following what our spiritual master is guiding us towards. So it's not what pleases us which is important, it's what pleases Krishna in the form of a servant of Krishna being the spiritual master whom we are trying to please. So many times you see in Krishna consciousness in our ISKCON, there are many sannyasis. They are excellent in so many other traits, but Srila Prabhupada has instructed them to do certain things. So they have left envy, they have left everything, their personal desire. So sometimes we like to sing whenever there is a microphone. Some of our friends, devotee friends, would end up catching the mic, trying to sing or showcase our qualities. But Krishna consciousness is not about pleasing our senses. It's about pleasing the higher purpose or the higher authority or the higher spiritual master. And that is very significant in this verse. Sanat Kumara, the four Kumaras, they choose to be celibate. Good, very good. But in doing that, they did not obey Brahmaji. But here, Manu, Swayambhu Manu, they worked on creating progenies so that this world can become filled with jivas who can help progress. And that is the reason why here he is glorified so beautifully by Brahmaji. He is referred to as a hero. Even if he was the first progenitor of all of us, which may appear that he didn't follow celibacy, but still he goes on to glorify Swayambhu Manu. And that brings up a very important concept in our life about this ashram we all are in. Most of the people on the call, you all are in the Grihastha ashram. And here, the Grihastha ashram is glorified. Often you'll see that when a boy is asked to marry a girl and a girl is asked to marry a boy, often the views of them may not be the same. The boys often would like to discuss sports or news or politics. The ladies typically, or the matajis typically, would end up talking about cooking or craft or beautifying the house. Often the thought process doesn't match. But in order to be part of this grihastha ashram we all are in, they tend to make compromises. They tend to come together and they create progenitors so that the Krishna consciousness can be put forth. So in this process, there is a significant amount of sacrifice they're doing. In the last class 2 weeks ago, we talked about the importance of brahmacharya, where staying celibate is so important, so profound in our movement. Likewise, the grihastha ashram, it's not a person marrying someone, it's an ashram by itself. It's an ashram where two people come together to take some decisions whereby Krishna can be glorified and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is taken care, and also the spiritual master is pleased. So here the grihastha ashram is glorified. Here Manu is glorified, and also this speaks about what we should do in trying to please our spiritual master, not in pleasing ourselves, which is often a very misconstrued thing in our execution of devotional service. So speaking a little bit about Manu, Manu wrote the Manu Smriti, which is an encyclopedia of how the society has to be run. So Manu with Satrupa, they procreated. children, and subsequently they all procreated, and we all are essentially from a forefather perspective, we are descendant of Manu. And here the aspect of procreation is important because it is referred that whenever Diwali comes, you all must be knowing, there is offerings, oblations to our forefathers, and if the procreation doesn't happen, then the forefathers who are not following the right path of liberation, they are often hanging around, and they need help from us when we do oblation. So that's the reason why there is a onus in all the Grihastha ashram members of the Vaishnava society or the Krishna conscious society to procreate, so that there is an aspect of offering oblations, so that there is purificatory activity which happens. Um, so how the society has to be run is all created by Manusmriti, which is an encyclopedia, and he was practical enough to procreate and not get carried away by the theoretical aspect of some person following. So he was very sane and he was very practical, as Brahmaji is saying that Manu was very sane, and he went on to use the word apramati. He is very sane, and he's saying Veera, he's saying he's a hero, and then he is without envy. So these three characteristics of Manu stands out in this verse, and and finally, I just wanted to reflect on this personality who could have done anything actually, but this person is actually the flower boy of Srila Prabhupada. His name is Sankadas. So when he came back from Vietnam War and he joined Krishna conscious movement, he was surrendering and he joined the temple pretty soon. And finally, he started planting. And initially, Srila Prabhupada was testing him. He was thinking he was bluffing. But in one morning walk, he found that the garden where he was doing devotional service is sprouted, and he has so much of flowers and fruits in the temple. And from that time, he offered Srila Prabhupada a flower. And from that day, he started offering a flower to Srila Prabhupada. And without any selfish motive, Srila Prabhupada summoned Sankadas Prabhu, and uh, he asked him to plant a flower in every square inch of Hare Krishna land. So from there on, that little service, sometimes we all tend to think, gardening is a little service, but Sankadas, he just wanted to please the spiritual master, because spiritual master's instruction was to plant a flower in every square inch in Hare Krishna land. And from then on, he just focused on that service. So just staying in the confines of that service, he took it to a great level. And in last November, around Govardhan Puja, he left this planet. But he left a reflection for all of us with his words to think through, that our intent is not to please ourselves by giving all these big lectures or holding the microphone, even if we do a menial service, but we took it to a big level, it really stands out significantly in the eyes of Krishna, which is epitomized by Sankadas Prabhu, and which is exactly what Manu, Swayambhu Manu, was doing at the time. Creating progenis was considered, because the first sons of Brahma didn't want to. So when this standout attitude was found in Manu, Brahmaji is rightly glorifying Swayambhu Manu by saying hero. So a person who is trying to please the spiritual master at that time, the purity was very high. So, but he simply followed his father's direction. So the importance of sacrificing our personal egos, our personal intention is less important than pleasing the spiritual master or pleasing the father. So if when you think about this verse, we should all take a fact that when father, our spiritual father, is saying something, he has 20 things going in the mind. He had, this has to be, there has to be a BV, there has to be somebody doing the journal, there has to be somebody helping out in Govinda. So Krishna is multidimensional, and not all dimensions can be done by one person. Even if one or two the dimensions may appear that they get the microphone, they get the spotlight, but our view is not to get into the spotlight. Our view should be to please what our spiritual master wants. So whenever he assigns us to do this, do that, because there is a meaning out of it. Because if everybody wants to hold the mic and be the public person, then who is going to do the other dimensions of Krishna? Likewise, Manu, Swayambhu Manu, took the onus. And before Manu, there were other who came in, but they didn't choose to procreate. But the Veera, or the hero in this verse, Swayambhu Manu, took the onus in delivering what was intended. Sometimes, whenever we end up doing some devotional service, it may not appear very profound in the name of the public, but you'll realize those little things some of the devotees have done at that point in time, they really have put the respect of our community on the forefront. Because it is not, you are in 20 places, but you really do not excel in any of this. It doesn't matter. But when you take a service and you make it pakka, you make it stand out in that little service, whether it is a small garland or whether it is a small activity you are asked to do, that really carries a lot of, because Krishna is perfect and Krishna expects us to excel. But at the same time, if we get because we are the Tatastha Sakti, we get carried away by our own, intentions, and then we neither do what we like and neither do what is expected of us properly. But here, in the grand scheme of things, if the spiritual master, in this case Brahma, the father of Manu, is saying something, Manu just went on to do. And going back to some of the aspects we talked about the kids paying offering oblations. So even Ramji in Rameshwaram paid offered oblations to Dasrath Maharaj and Jatayu. So it is not out of the ordinary to expect that we will stay celibate all our life and not procreate. As long as you're procreating for the purpose of Krishna consciousness, it is definitely a service you're doing, staying in the confines of the Grihastha ashram. So the importance of Manu in this context is very significant. We all are descendants of Swayambhu Manu and Satrupa, and here Brahmaji is glorifying, and there in the summary of this verse, there are significant references to to trying to do that service to full capacity and with delight. As you can say, that based on your capability, if you end up giving full 100% to that little service, it will stand out. So here there is references to with full capacity and staying sane, but following the orders of the spiritual master should be our mood to serve, not what we desire, not what pleases us, not what pleases the public, but what pleases Krishna and what pleases the spiritual master is of utmost important. And that, as long as we can do that without envy, in our mind, that even if nobody is looking at us because we haven't got the spotlight, but at least Krishna is looking at us, our spiritual master is looking at us, that should be our. So so when COVID started, Madhavananda Prabhu spoke a little bit about looking inwards, antarmukhi. So when we tend to look inwards, we realize that this outside show, this ability to showcase our image outside often is not as important as trying to be part of that little squirrel where you end up adding up the building blocks in helping a bigger cause, which is significant. So the mindset has to change, and the mindset to serve. If we were keeping our personal things in the perspective has to change, and we have to take a lot from Sankadas Prabhu, who could have done anything for that matter. He has given classes as well, but Srila Prabhupada just wanted him to be the gardener of ISKCON, and he was the flower boy of ISKCON, where he planted a lot of fruits, he planted a lot of vegetables, flowers in Mayapur and New Vrindavan and many different temples around the world, and just doing the gardening. Whenever you talk about the services in Krishna consciousness, people just straight away go to deity worship. Today we are going to dress Radha Shyam Sundar. Gaurnita is waiting, others are waiting, but that attitude of stealing the limelight. But here you see this beautiful soul who wanted to stay in the background, exactly like how Manu is glorified here, and what a life he led. He led a heroic life, as Brahmaji is mentioning to Manu, that, "Oh hero, likewise, no service is small in the eyes of Krishna, and as long as we end up serving in whatever capacity, but try to give 200%, even if we are cleaning snow, or even if we are serving, but put the entire mind. Whenever we are serving, our mind should not be going to who is singing, this, that. So you're constantly focused in our activity to please Krishna and please our spiritual master. The outcome will be significant. And if everybody gives that little thing, like exactly, then we all will be heroes, not just within ourselves, but as Brahmaji is mentioning, uh, any little service, if we do it perfectly, we are heroes in the eyes of Krishna. And this is a verse we should take some inspiration from. I think I can end here. If there is any question or comments, I have 2 minutes, but like to end here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Babu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Babu.
Oh, very nice lecture and very nice, and profoundly you describe everything about the Manu. But Prabhu, I have question about that. Manu, we are the descendant of Manu. You are talking about the Manu has the 3 daughters and two sons. But what about the Diti and Aditi? Aditi and Aditi from not from Manu, right? So from whom?
They are from not getting the name. The Aditi, they are from the 9. I can get the right names, Prabhu. I'm just not short of words at the moment.
Oh, no problem.
I think Kardam Muni.
Kardam Muni and yes. So they are from that side, Prabhu, and from the Kardam Muni side, Aditi and Diti came. But essentially the point here, Prabhu, is Manu is glorified here for taking the big step in being the progenitor of the entire universe, and Brahmaji is rightfully glorifying him nicely, and yeah. Okay, Prabhu.
Sure, got it. Thank you, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam. Dandavat Pranam to everyone.
Thank you so much. We can end here if there is no other question.
Seems Daksha's daughters. Kardam Muni's daughters are different. Daksha Prajapati's daughters.
Yeah.
Today Madhupad Prabhu is busy daily kitchen cooking. So thank you very much, Hema Jagannath Prabhu, for nicely pointing out the actual inner reflection is more important than outer reflection, outer consciousness. Very, very important point. Today is also Sri Narottam Das Thakur, exalted Acharya in our parampara. It's appearance day. Please pray to him. So most of the famous songs we all know, Jai Anilo, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Dayakaro More, many other songs Narottam Das Thakur written. Many pastimes are there connected. Because of this exalted Acharya, we are able to get all these books because of Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivasa Acharya, Shyamananda Pandit. Mahaprabhu himself told and Nityananda Prabhu their conversation in his Mahaprabhu appeared in dream and Narottam he was chanting loudly in Kanaya Natashala when he came, other than meeting Srupa and Sanatan. Then Nityananda Prabhu asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is this? What is Narottam? Then he explained that I want to, after you all disappear, who is going to distribute this love? So that personality is Narottam. He will be appearing, and then he told Padma river, personality of Padma river Ganga, that this, please give this love and inundate this love, give it to Narottam who's going to come soon to this bank of this river. So please give it to him. In this way we can see. But 701. Thank you all for joining. Let's pray, chant 3 times Hare Krishna mantra and Nursing prayer, and then we can conclude. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Jai Narsimha,
Jai Narsingha, Shri Narsingha, Jai Narsingha Deva, Prahlade Padma Bringa,
Gram Veera
Ugram Veera Mahavishnu Jalantam Sarvatokam Narsingha Bhishanam Bhadram Mrityam Namamiham.
Saraswati Bhagwan ki jai.
Jai
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 Jai.
Vancha kalpatarubhyasya
Kalpatarubhyasya kripa
Sindhuve
Patitanam
Patitanam
Pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavibhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Namo
Namo Namaha.
Ashwamad ki jai.
Jai
Vaishnavi ki jai, Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai,
Bhagavatam
Jai
Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari.
Hari Hari Bo.
Thank you.
Thank
Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
you
Hema
so much,
Jagannath
Hema
Prabhu.
Jagannath.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
everyone. Hare Krishna. Hari Bol.